my lovelies. So, as you can see behind me, I have Jason, I have Fredward, my two homies. We're going to do tonight's episode on Jason Voorhees and his backstory. Friday the 13th and that whole franchise. What a beautiful tribute to the horror genre, wouldn't you say so? Yes, you would. So, who is Jason Voorhees? He's a movie star, a pop icon. He's a big, mean, ugly guy who wears a hockey mask, a machete to do his work. It's tough to kill and is responsible for hundreds of on-screen deaths, which we absolutely loved. Thank you, Jason. He's Jason Voorhees, the star of 7 of the 9 Friday the 13th movies, although you think he's responsible for even more. He's not. Jason Voorhees was born in 1946 to Pamela Voorhees and Elias Voorhees. He was premature and entered the world at midnight on Friday the 13th in September or December. We don't know. Anyway, his mother thought he drowned in Crystal Lake at the age of 11. Jason survived and he became a hermit, living in the woods and feeding off plants, bugs, and animals, and yada yada. Some claim he did drown but came back to life to avenge his mother's death. So those are the two theories that kind of people go back and forth on and actually get into arguments over. Yeah, can you believe that? He grew to be a large, deformed, and uneducated man who never said a word. He's quiet as a mouse, which mice are not quiet, so I never really understood that analogy. Jason's mother blamed irresponsible counselors for her son's death. She killed 2 counselors in 1958, and the camp was closed in 1979, long after Jason's alleged death. Someone tried to open the camp again, and Jason watched as his mother killed the counselors one by one, which the first Friday the 13th is a great movie. A lot of people thought Jason was responsible for the deaths, but that's just not true. Anybody who's a diehard fan of the Friday the 13th franchise knows that Pamela Voorhees was the serial killer in Friday the 13th Part 1. Excuse me. So the counselor took a canoe, Alice, the counselor that survived, she took a canoe out into the lake, and Jason came up from behind and pulled her into the lake to drown her, but she survived. Later, Jason found her home and murdered her before returning to his shack in the woods surrounding Crystal Lake. Every time someone else tried to open Crystal Lake or wandered onto the land, Jason would slash, crush, impale, dismember, or decapitate his intruders. And that's what starts the whole franchise. Beautiful thing. Jason Voorhees and his backstory. Whew, what a fucking story it is. Let's get started. So in 1980, the world lost the ability to look at a wholesome, scenic summer camp and feel anything but terror. And the culprit was Jason Voorhees with Friday the 13th franchise. Brilliant, bloody blockbuster that tore beautiful Camp Crystal Lake to pieces. It would be another year before Jason Voorhees, the Friday the 13th series' iconic killer, took the reins of the franchise in Friday the 13th Part 2. But in the years since, there's no denying that he's become the summertime boogeyman that we all love. Few who have seen the Friday the 13th movies are able to go camping without looking over their shoulder once or twice for a maniac in a hockey mask. His relentless brutality, stealth, and supernatural powers make him the scourge of skittish viewers, nightmares, and a cornerstone of the slasher genre. What began as a classic morality tale wrapped in some good old-fashioned Hollywood violence has blossomed into one of the most complicated and lore-heavy horror franchises in cinematic history. It is that fucking incredible. Definitely. Whether he is inexplicably surviving, drowning, or being literally dragged to and subsequently returned from hell, Jason's storyline can be hard to pin down. To help you better understand the masked figure haunting your nightmares, we're here to explain Jason's backstory from its brutal beginning to its eerie end. Mommy issues. Jason had mommy issues. I don't know if you knew that. I mean, if you didn't, you weren't fucking paying attention, were ya? Jason Voorhees' story actually begins with his death as a child, and the murder spree is sent to his dutiful mother on the Friday the 13th Part 1. In 1957, Jason accompanies his mother Pamela to the camp where she works as a cook. The deformed, mentally disabled young boy is picked on by the other campers and tossed into the lake. Because he is not a strong swimmer, Jason drowns. Counselors on duty could have rescued the boy, but teenage hormones had gotten the better of them. They'd all slipped away to have sex in the woods as the boy struggled to survive. This does not sit well with Pamela, nor would it with any other mother. I can see why she did what she did. She returns a year later and takes revenge on 2 counselors. Decades later, Pamela returns to the camp upon hearing that it's going to be reopened. Despite all the work she'd done to scare locals into shuttering her son's final resting place, she stalks and kills the group of young teens who arrived ahead of all the other campers. After racking up a body count, Pamela struggles to finish off a counselor named Alice. She eventually chases her with a machete to the shoreline where they fight. Alice manages to get the machete and decapitates Pamela. Great scene, like the best scene of the first one, except for the last part. Exhausted, she collapses into a canoe and has a nightmare in which a young, decomposing boy vengefully drags her to the bottom of the lake. Is Jason still out there? Fans would have to wait to find out. That's the best scene of the first one. A vengeful woodsman. It is revealed in Friday the 13th Part 2 that Jason somehow survived being tossed into the lake as a boy and has been living in a crude cabin in the woods. After her encounter with Alice, Jason discovers his mother's body and falls into a murderous, vengeful rage. Months after the events of the first movie, he tracks Alice down to her home and murders her with a fucking ice pick. Jason Voorhees' first on-screen kill, he decides to further Pamela's legacy by killing anyone that dares to try and make Camp Crystal Lake a fun place. We shall not have fun anymore. Right, Jason? Oh, he's so tall. So Jason proves, across the water from where Jason died, a counselor training group meets at Camp Packanack. Ooh. Jason proves even more deadly than his dear old mom and kills all of them, except a woman named Ginny Field and a man named Paul. After finding her friends dead, Ginny flees into the woods and discovers Jason's shack. Inside, she sees that he's created a horrific shrine to Pamela, his mother, complete with her sweater and severed head. Yes, you heard me, right? And you've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it. When Jason finds her, Ginny dons Pamela's sweater and briefly convinces him that she's his mom. Ginny seizes the opportunity to bury his machete deep into his shoulder, but somehow Jason survives. No, get out of here. He survives? What? Yeah, he always survives. And he attacks Ginny and Paul back at the camp before help can arrive. A long day. Jason manages to survive and recover from his injury, and Friday the 13th Part 3 picks up the day after Jason's killing spree at Camp Packanack. He makes his way to a general store and kills the 2 owners before stealing himself some new, less bloody, torn clothing. He then wanders the Crystal Lake area, finding yet another gathering of teens at a family-owned home called Higgins Haven. The owner, Chris Higgins, suffers from PTSD from a mysterious encounter she had with Jason years earlier in which she was attacked, only to wake up in her own room with no idea of how she got there. Jason murders one of the group and steals his hockey mask. The accessory has become his signature. Using the mask to hide his facial deformities, Jason proceeds to kill everyone but Chris. He chases her into a barn where she manages to get a noose around his neck and hangs him from the barn. In order to free himself, Jason removes his mask, briefly revealing that he was the man who attacked Chris years ago. She battles her boogeyman, eventually burying an axe directly into his motherfucking forehead, splitting his brand new mask in the process. After Whoops. After a few hallucinations, the movie ends with the police surrounding Jason's dead body the next morning. Unlike the machete to the shoulder, this wound was harder to shake off. However, despite it being fatal to any human, Jason lives on. Of course he does. He always lives on. Not dead yet. Friday the 13th, the final chapter, opens with a bang. Jason wakes up at the local morgue and kills 2 people there before making his way back to Crystal Lake. He always makes his way back to Crystal Lake. You know, there is no place like home. There, to no viewer's surprise, he encounters yet another group of partying teens. No, get out of here, you don't say. After getting his hockey mask back on, he slaughters them all. Trish, a neighbor who lives with her kid brother Tommy, and their mother, is informed of the situation thanks to a man named Rob who is in the area to investigate the death of his sister from the second movie, an event that took place roughly 3 days prior. So there's a little timeline for you. When Trish and Rob enter the party house and discover the carnage, Jason kills Rob and chases Trish back to her family home. As she's escaping, Tommy discovers some of Rob's newspaper clippings about Jason's rampage at Camp Packanack. I think they were going for like Camp Picnic or whatever, but it's Packanack. Yeah. He reads about the trick Ginny pulled with Pamela's sweater and hatches a scheme of his own. Meanwhile, Trish manages to injure Jason, but he is still able to overpower her. Just as he's about to deliver a killing blow, Tommy comes downstairs, having shaved his head in order to look like a young Jason. Transfixed, Jason drops his guard, allowing Trish to knock his mask off. Tommy picks up the machete and jams it into the maniac's skull before hacking him to pieces, and Jason is finally dead enough to bury. Supernaturally scary. Although Jason's multiple returns from death were improbable, it wasn't until the 6th Friday the 13th movie that the story of Jason Voorhees took a turn for the totally supernatural. That's right, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, wasn't actually the final chapter. We knew it. Us that have been there from the beginning, we fucking knew it. After being murdered by Tommy, Jason is buried for years. Tommy struggles with PTSD and hallucinations, leading to numerous stints in psychiatric hospitals and halfway houses. By 1986, Tommy is ready to finally put Jason behind him by traveling back to Crystal Lake and burning the killer's body. He and a friend from his last institution exhumed Jason's corpse, only for Tommy to lose control and start stabbing the body with an iron fence poker piece. At that moment, lightning strikes the rod as it's embedded in Jason's chest, reviving him through electricity. Like, seriously? That's some good writing. Just like that, Jason becomes his old, unstoppable self. He's alive. He's alive. He was really alive. He goes on yet another rampage around Crystal Lake, which has been renamed Forest Green due to bad publicity, blah, 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 you know. However, Tommy manages to best his nemesis once again by luring Jason out into the middle of the lake and chaining him to a fucking boulder. That was a great scene. The movie ends with Jason very much alive, but trapped at the bottom of the lake. You know, it was crazy because I was like, yes, they got that fucker, but at the same time I was like, no. I'm either rooting for the underdog, sometimes. I'm almost always rooting for Jason. It's just what I do. Horror fanatic, that's what I do. Friday the 13th, Part 7, New Blood. My personal favorite. Absolutely love it. Psycho versus Psychic. After spending years at the bottom of Crystal Lake, a teenager named Tina Shepard arrives on its shores. Tina has telekinetic powers that manifested in her accidental murder of her own father. An event that scars her, the telekinetic powers were reportedly a quickie rewrite after the studio failed to secure the rights to have Jason's antagonist be Freddy Krueger, who was my other favorite. When her therapy sessions become overwhelming, Tina races to the docks and reflects upon her father. In doing this, she accidentally uses her powers and frees Jason of his shackles, allowing him to inflict yet another round of murders upon the Crystal Lake community. Forced into a showdown, Tina unleashes her powers in full. However, Jason's raw strength proves a match for her telekinesis. He's not even stopped by being fully engulfed in flames. It takes some help from beyond the grave to finally subdue Jason Voorhees. When the battle makes its way back to the docks, Tina unknowingly summons the spirit of her father. This is one of the best scenes in the whole freaking movie. The father who drags Jason back underwater and shackles him there once again. That was incredible. On to number 8. From the lake to the sewer. Y'all know what this one is. This one was my second to least favorite. I'll inform you about that. Jason lies dormant at the bottom of Crystal Lake until another pair of oversexed teenagers sail by, not realizing that their anchor is dragging a power line. Yes, a power line. The electricity hits Jason, reviving him instantly. He boards their ship and murders them both. The following day, Jason manages to swap from the sailboat to a cruise liner, taking a group of high schoolers to New York City for a field trip. He systematically murders most of them before the vessel finally reaches the destination. Jason Voorhees finds himself in Manhattan. Yes, he's in the city. A place utterly unlike Crystal Lake, but his bloodlust is unchanged. The Big Apple's back alleys allow him to successfully stalk the survivors of the ship. After a brief jaunt through Times Square leads him to the sewers, he's foiled by Rennie, niece of the high schooler chaperone, who splashes toxic waste in his face and exposes his grotesque visage once more. Blah, blah. Jason gives chase, but it's seemingly washed out to sea by a flood of toxic waste. Although he was stopped, the fact remains that countless New Yorkers saw a monster in a hockey mask trapeze through the city, committing multiple murders, murder after murder. Jason Voorhees would never be just an urban legend ever again. No, never. Wanted, Jason Voorhees. Although Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday is by far the wackiest installment of the Friday the 13th series. It starts out pretty realistically. After his rampage through the streets of Manhattan, the FBI is now wise to Jason's existence. Everybody know about him. Everybody. For real. It is revealed that he somehow made it back to Crystal Lake with his mask now fused to his face. He stalks a young woman who turns out to be an FBI agent. Springing an elaborate trap, the feds obliterate him with explosives. It is chop suey, baby. Everywhere. Jason's spirit, however, has become able to possess others. Yes. He takes control of a coroner in Ohio, uses his body to travel back to Crystal Lake, then leaves the coroner's body for a police officer's. To no surprise, Crystal Lake has a gaggle of partying teens enjoying its shores, whom Jason slaughters. He just doesn't want anybody to have any fucking fun. No. He was trying to have fun, but he, got thrown in the lake and drowned, and so now he's fucking pissed, okay? And then y'all killed his mom. He's pissed. He's on a vengeance. So, meanwhile, a bounty hunter named Creighton Duke is all over the news claiming new knowledge of Jason's powers. According to Duke, only a member of Jason's bloodline can truly kill him. It just so happens that he's got a half-sister. Fuck me. He's got a half-sister. I knew that. Who lives in the area with her daughter and granddaughter. With the help of a man named Steve, they all travel to Jason's childhood home for a final showdown. Eventually, Jason is stabbed by his niece with a mystical dagger. I think she was a witch. Demonic hands emerge from the ground and literally drag Jason to hell. And you heard Freddy's laugh. He's down there waiting for him. Which brings me to the next one of my favorites, Freddy vs. Jason. Absolutely love it. Comical, horror, just genius. In hell, Jason meets fellow horror movie monster Freddy Krueger of Nightmare on Elm Street. Fame. Freddy needs people to fear him. This allows him to attack people in their dreams. However, the people of Elm Street he's so terrorized have taken steps to erase him from the town's memories. He pulls some strings in hell and tricks Jason into going to Elm Street to put fear back into their hearts. Once the job is done, though, Freddy realizes that he doesn't have a plan to turn Jason off. Unlike Freddy, he will slaughter indiscriminately, depriving the Elm Street baddie of the victims he craves. So he's killing his kills, and Freddy doesn't like that. He's like, oh, hell no. The teens of Elm Street decide to retrieve Freddy from the dream world in order to pit him against Jason. The two titans of murder clash in an epic battle at Crystal Lake. It is fucking amazing. If you haven't seen it, you have to. But if you haven't seen it, where the hell have you been? Under a rock? The battle ends with an exhausted Jason stabbing Freddy through the chest with Freddy's own fucking severed arm. Claw right through the chest. Great scene. The next day, Jason emerges from Crystal Lake holding Freddy's head, which winks and laughs at the camera. So for those of you out there saying Jason won, you can't kill Freddy. You can't. Obviously, Jason doesn't seem to be fucking dying either, but you can't say either one of them won. It was like a tie, you know? Yeah. Jason somehow lives until 2008 when he is captured by the United States government and held captive at a facility built at Crystal Lake for 2 years. After numerous attempts to execute the killer for his crimes, the government decides to cryogenically freeze him. However, someone gets greedy and tries to stop the freezing process to study how Jason regenerates. The ensuing battle sees Jason and government scientist Rowan LaFontaine both frozen within the sealed facility. They're discovered in the year 2455, which brings us to Jason X, my least favorite of the franchise, which it wasn't even Jason, was it? It was an imposter. I don't know. After Earth has become a polluted wasteland by a group of students and their professor, the group takes the frozen pair to their ship where they reanimate Rowan and pronounce Jason dead. Sent to the morgue, Jason eventually thaws and goes on a ship-wide killing spree in space. It takes an android named KM-14 armed with upgraded weaponry to subdue Jason. Unfortunately, KM-14 blows Jason to pieces with a nanite-equipped medical station that not only heals Jason's wounds, but fucking upgrades him. This motherfucker is like Jason on steroids. Yeah, times 10. So he's now a powerful cyborg, okay? The ensuing rampage blows up the ship just as its shuttle makes its way to humanity's new planet, Earth 2, with the last survivors. Jason Voorhees is last seen hurtling toward a new lake on this new planet, poised to murder a new generation of camping teens. It was alright. Okay, it was alright, yeah. When it comes to classic horror movies, it'd be impossible not to mention Friday the 13th. Not only is it one of the largest horror franchises ever built, 12 films, TV series, comic books, video games, yada yada yada, but it boasts one of the most recognizable antagonists in the history of the genre, Jason Voorhees. Jason motherfucking Voorhees. Who only came to be known in his current hockey mask wearing form in the third movie installment, is a slasher villain like no other. With a kill count in the hundreds, Jason holds the title of being the most prolific killer in the entire horror genre in cinematic history. That, right there, that is why we love Jason, of course, darling. So there you have it. That's most of the backstory for my boy Jason. There is a new series coming out. I think it's just called Camp Crystal Lake. I am so excited for it. I did read something about possibly another movie. What the hell was it called? Friday the 13th. I can't think of it. I'll have to look it up again and maybe I'll post it under this. But which of the 9, I think there's 9, 10, yeah, there's 9. Which one is your favorite? Okay, I said earlier that my favorite is number 7, New Blood. That's with Tina Shepard, the girl with the telekinetic powers. She whoops his ass through the whole thing. It's so good. It's so fucking good. Like, the whole thing is just written perfect. My least favorite is Jason X. I wasn't really on board with all the space shit, cyborg, blah, blah, blah. No, I wanted old school. I wanted teens partying and fucking in the woods and, you know, the sleeping bag up against the tree. That's like one of his best kills. That's the good stuff. So, yeah, let me know which one was your favorite. Who do you like better? I haven't done Michael Myers yet. I will closer to Halloween. But out of the 3, those 3 are my favorite. Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Michael Myers. Which one is your favorite? I want to know. Literally, I want to know which one is your favorite. And also, let me know which movie of the franchise is your favorite, 1 through 9. Let me know in the comments. So, it's Sunday night, start of a new week. This week is going to be huge for me. I am going to be getting, I have photo shoots going on. I'm almost done wearing this damn thing. It's driving me nuts. The tape is making me claw my skin off. It's just, so sick of it. Anyways, I have photo shoots coming up. I have, what else? Oh, my audio engineer for my music, his name's Tyler, is going to be mixing and mastering my songs over the next month for my album, which gets released sometime in September, either the first or second weekend, like pretty much right around when fall starts. I'm so excited for that. You have no idea. Like, this was on my bucket list, and I'm releasing an album, and oh my god, I never thought I'd be able to do that, but I worked my ass off, literally sicker than crap, worked as hard as I could. I did the damn thing, okay? I did it. And I think you're really gonna like it. There's some good stuff on there. There's a nice variety, so I hope that everybody has a favorite. Anywho, like I said, start of a new week. Have a beautiful week. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. Watch some new horror movies. Put that on your agenda. You should always be doing that, okay? All right. Have a good night. Sweet nightmares, whatever. Good night.